I've been leaving tiny notes inside pipe fittings for 20 years, and I can't stop. I've been a plumber in the Kansas City area for 22 years, starting as an apprentice when I was just 19. I'm good at what I do, licensed, insured, and I even built my own company, employing 4 guys now. I'm just a regular person, going to church sometimes, enjoying a cold drink, and cheering for the Chiefs like everyone else. But for 2 decades, I've been slipping little notes into pipes. Tiny pieces of paper rolled up tight and wrapped in electrical tape, so they last. I hide them in fittings, behind access panels, and inside walls, right before the drywall goes up. Places where no one will find them for years, maybe decades. In my time, I've completed around 3,500 jobs, leaving over 4,000 notes scattered across Kansas City, Overland Park, Olathe, Lee's Summit, Independence, and even Lawrence and Topeka. I like to think a significant part of the plumbing infrastructure in the area holds my cryptic messages. Most will never be discovered, just existing in walls forever. But some will be found someday. The best note I ever left was in a big new construction for a wealthy family. While doing the rough-in for a basement bathroom, I wrote, "There is no treasure here. Stop looking." Then, 6 feet away, I added, "You're getting warmer." And by the sump pump, I wrote, "Cold, very cold. There's no treasure." If someone ever finds all 3 notes, they'll be searching that basement for years. I hope they find them in the wrong order. I probably have another 20 years of plumbing ahead of me, which means another 4,000 notes. By the time I retire, there could be close to 10,000 notes hidden in walls across the Kansas City metro. That will be my legacy. People will remember Arrowhead, the Nelson, and the Liberty Memorial, but they won't remember me. Yet, I'll be in their walls. If you're a plumber thinking about starting this, I encourage you to do it. The pay is decent, and the work is fine. But hiding a note that says, "You should have listened to your mother" behind someone's water heater, that's what gets me out of bed in the morning. So Kansas City, if you ever tear open a wall and find a strange note, just know it was me. I'm sorry, and also, you're welcome. And maybe check the crawl space, though I promise, there's nothing there.
I accidentally found out what my dad really did for me when I was a kid. I'm 24 now, and last week I went back to my hometown to help my parents pack up their house for a move. In the garage, I stumbled upon a dusty box with my name on it. Inside were old notebooks, silly drawings, school papers, and one envelope that caught my attention. At first, I didn't think much of it, but when I opened it, I found a letter from my old elementary school. It said I could be removed because tuition hadn't been paid for almost a year. That hit me hard. Growing up, I never felt like we were struggling. My dad worked as a mechanic, and my mom took on various jobs. I always thought everything was good enough. Behind that letter was a note from my dad to the school. "Please give me some time. I sold my car this week. I'll bring money and parts if I have to. Just don't make her feel different from other kids." I had no idea he sold his car. I remember being annoyed when he started walking to work each day. Other dads drove their kids, and I thought he was just being stubborn. But now, I see it differently. I sat on the garage floor for a few minutes, just staring at that paper. Later I asked him about it. He laughed and said, "Yeah, that car wasn't great anyway," and then changed the subject. It's wild how parents shield you from the weight of their struggles. I'm still thinking about it. I didn't expect my last post to get so much attention. I just wanted to share something small that stayed with me. Thank you to everyone who left such kind comments. I read many of them more than once. Some people asked what happened after, so I figured I'd add a little update. I brought up the letter again with my dad. Nothing dramatic happened. He laughed and said the car was terrible anyway, then quickly changed the subject. That's just how he is. He never liked discussing sacrifices or being seen as someone who struggled. What I didn't mention before is that because I was able to stay in school, things turned out pretty well for me. I got my education, I have a job I genuinely like, and I'm doing okay now. Better than okay, honestly. I've been saving money for a while, and I'm almost at the point where I can afford to buy a car. I don't think I'll explain why. I'll probably just say I found a good deal. That feels right somehow. It's strange to realize how much your parents hide from you to spare you from feeling their burdens. I thought I understood that when I was younger, but I don't think I really did until now. Thanks again for reading and for being so kind. I didn't expect any of this.
1 month of bag, and I'm already a degenerate, and I'm complaining. I'm a 20-year-old woman in college, and I tried bag for the first time a month ago. Now I find myself using it on weekends, and I can already see the path of addiction stretching out before me. I know I need to stop before it gets worse, which sounds so naive because I should just quit cold turkey. But it's not that easy for me. I grew up in a family full of addicts. I was surrounded by AA and NA meetings throughout my childhood, attending one every week for many years. I smoke weed and drink socially, but alcohol has never been my thing. Bag feels different. I love it. It gives me energy and makes me feel more social, allowing me to keep up with everyone. It helps me escape my depression and constant drowsiness. When I'm tired or unmotivated, my mind tells me it will fix it, and it does. It brings me relief and lets me enjoy going out. Normally, I feel bored and lethargic, but this has changed everything. Since then, I've been looking forward to using it. I started using it before I even go out, like while getting ready. I spend the whole week thinking about it, using "it's the weekend" as my excuse. I hate that I'm already depending on it to feel okay. I don't want this to control my life, but I'm scared because it already feels like it's heading that way. I just needed to share this somewhere.
Knowing how some women work makes me less of a feminist, apparently. About 7 months ago, my husband sat me down and revealed that he was in love with a woman from work. He wanted to be honest and not cheat, so he asked for a separation. His words came as a relief after weeks of him being cold and distant. I had been walking on eggshells around him, and when he confessed his feelings, it felt like a weight lifted. I simply said, "That is fine." His confusion was evident, as he expected me to care more. I explained how I felt free to stomp on the eggshells now. He stayed with me for 2 more weeks, and it was awkward. I could see him excited like a child, while I mostly hid in my bedroom. When he moved out, I didn't see him for a month. He texted occasionally, but I never answered. As I filed for divorce, we began to see each other more, planning to sell the apartment and moving our things around. About a month ago, we started renovating the apartment. While painting the bedroom, I noticed he was distant again. I asked what was wrong, and he admitted things hadn't gone as he expected with her. He told me she wasn't as passionate as he had hoped. I reminded him that she knew she was involved with a married man. He became upset, insisting he never cheated and had ended our relationship first. I pointed out that perhaps the thrill was gone for her now that they were together. After a long pause, he admitted he missed me. I asked if he was going to make this awkward, suggesting we work on different schedules. He apologized, saying he didn't mean to offend me, but he missed me constantly. I told him it offended me because I don't flirt with unavailable people. He dismissed my comparison as ridiculous, and I just shrugged. Then yesterday, he texted me, admitting I was right. When he told his colleague he was back with me, she became affectionate again. I didn't respond, feeling a mix of laughter and sorrow at the absurdity of it all. An hour later, he showed up at my door, smoking cigarettes. I joined him, breaking my 15 years of being smoke-free. He said, "I don't know what I was thinking. I love you. You know that?" I replied no, which was the truth. He looked shocked, insisting I knew he loved me. I said no again, and he shook his head in disbelief. After he left, he texted that he was ending things with her. I replied that it was ridiculous to end a marriage over this. He called me 3 times, but I didn't answer. When I shared this with my friends, they were surprised at how judgmental I was toward the other woman. One even called me a pick-me. I was taken aback, as I've always considered myself a feminist. I didn't argue because I lacked the energy, but their words made me reflect. I had felt like a victim for months, but now I wondered if I wasn't. It made me feel strangely less angry, as if I was on equal footing with my husband and his colleague.
My dead husband's mistress is pregnant, and I kinda hope it's his. My husband was killed by a drunk driver in October 2025. He was my best friend and my entire world since I was 15. I've never truly lived a life without him. We had been separated for 5 months, but even then, we did everything together except for a few things and living under the same roof. Just weeks before his death, we were back together and everything seemed to be looking up when I got the call. In November, I received a message on Facebook from a woman claiming she was pregnant with my husband's child. I didn't know how to respond, but we eventually met. She told me they had a one-night encounter. If she's telling the truth and the baby is his, it means we weren't separated at that time. For some reason, I find myself hoping it is his. I know this sounds insane, but we had separated because he was going through a midlife crisis after I had given up on trying to have a baby. We had spent 18 years trying, and after 4 rounds of fertility treatments and a heartbreaking miscarriage, I couldn't endure another round. He wanted to try one more time, but I was exhausted. Our fights led us to take some time apart. Now I can't help but think that if this baby is his, at least one of his dreams could come true. There could be a little version of him out there, changing the world just as we had always dreamed. He may be gone, but his legacy could still move forward. I met with an attorney recently, and my husband's estate is secure. Under the circumstances, the baby isn't entitled to anything, but I wouldn't feel right not setting up a college fund and trust, along with some family heirlooms. I know many people might disagree with my decision, given how this situation came about. It's a difficult situation for me, but an innocent child shouldn't suffer because of the mistakes made by adults. I have more than enough money, including funds from my husband's trust, that we never used. If the baby is his, I will ensure a trust fund and college fund are set up, and I'll find a way for them to receive my husband's family heirlooms. I don't want to be involved in this child's life. I wrote this while deep in grief, and I think that grief influenced my thoughts. When my husband died, I lost everything. He was my only family and my best friend. I grew up in foster care, and my biological mother passed away long before I could meet her. There was no father on any of my paperwork. I have nobody, and my mental health has been in a terrible state, so I hope for some understanding. I wrote this thinking maybe someone else has gone through something similar, and I appreciate all the comments, both good and bad. I don't believe the baby is my husband's, nor do I think he cheated. The woman claimed they met at a bar in Colorado on a specific date, and went back to his hotel room. She even named the bar and the dates he was there for his yearly ski trip. It seemed convincing, until I realized that his social media had that information publicly available. I asked his friends about the trip, and they were confused, because he didn't stay at the bar long, and left with one of them. They made me cry, recounting how much he talked about me, and how deeply he loved me. I don't think he would have cheated. He despised infidelity. But I know that sometimes people can surprise you. I'm still going ahead with the DNA test on my attorney's advice. It's just to protect myself in case she tries to pursue anything in court. That's all for now. I see a therapist soon, and I hope she can help me through this. The baby is due any day now, so I'll update if I learn anything more.
I left my wife after she said I wasn't manly enough. This is a confession I've been holding on to for too long. We'd been together since we were 18. She was my first everything, while she had been with a few people before me. We have an 18-year-old daughter who is an amazing, brilliant, and kind person. I couldn't have asked for a better kid. In the last few years, my wife began making odd comments about my manliness. I brushed them off at first, but over the past year, it escalated. About 3 months ago, I finally decided I couldn't take it anymore. I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but I think I'm quite manly while also being a normal person. I'm tall, work out a few times a week, and can handle any DIY around the house. I used to be an amateur boxer and cage fighter, and I still do it as a hobby to stay fit. The things she pointed out as unmanly about me are that I enjoy baking and cooking. I don't drink, and while I don't mind if others do, it's just not for me. I like artists like Taylor Swift and Ariana Grande. My main choice in music is rap. But with a teenage daughter, I've come to appreciate some pop songs too. I have a powerful car and a motorbike, but my preferred ride is a small VW Up. It's practical for me, and I don't see the need to drive something flashy. My ex-wife disagreed, saying I give off a certain vibe in it. I tend to walk away from arguments with strangers, while she perceives any slight as a personal insult. If someone cuts in front of her in traffic, she's leaning on the horn. I prefer to let things slide. Once a man was obnoxious to me on a night out, calling me names and pushing me. I just smiled and walked away, wishing him a safe journey home. When we got back, she said I embarrassed her in front of her friends. I told her, what's the point in fighting a drunk kid half my size? She called me a doormat. In September I left her.
Even then, she had a dig, saying a real man would change. Since then, she's changed her tune, expressing a willingness to go to therapy, both individual and couples, to sort out her issues. But I wonder if the wounds from her words are too deep. Since I left, I felt more relaxed and happier. I no longer worry about what I can listen to or if I can bake a cake without judgment. Yet the thought of being alone and meeting new people terrifies me. Everything tells me I'm on the right path, but a nagging doubt lingers. What if all those words she spoke about me are true? What if I am annoying and destined to be alone forever? I left my wife for constantly questioning my manliness, and now I'm scared of the future. A few months later, I didn't get back with her, and the divorce is now in motion. Our daughter understands and says I seem much happier. My ex kept asking me to come back until she announced she's seeing someone else. When I felt relief instead of hurt, I realized I was truly over her. I'm still baking, cooking, and boxing. I've got tickets to see Sabrina Carpenter with my daughter, and we're also going to see Kendrick Lamar. I still enjoy my rap and pop music. I want to thank everyone who reached out after my last post. Your support was humbling and made a difference.
The man baby is finally facing the music. My brother is 31 years old, and in all that time, he hasn't had to lift a finger to meet any of his needs. He dropped out of college after less than half a semester because he couldn't manage to get out of bed before noon. He's worked a total of 2.5 months in his entire life. He lost his first job at a fast food restaurant for yelling at a customer, and the second one for stealing from the register. For the last 8 years, he's rolled out of bed at 2 p.m., doing nothing but playing video games and searching for others just as lost as he is. He's an annoying, self-centered person who would throw our parents under the bus for a fleeting thrill. My parents have always tried their best. They gave us everything we needed, and then some. For my 2 siblings and me, their support led to success in school, good jobs, and a solid start to adulthood. I wish I could commend them for their efforts, but they've allowed my brother to remain in a childish state for far too long. Now, they're left with an overgrown toddler who spends his days in the attic, playing games, and cursing at my mom when she asks him to clean up his mess. Last year, Dad had a stroke. He now requires 24-hour care, and Mom is completely burnt out. She retired to take care of him, and it's put a strain on their relationship that years of marriage couldn't have prepared them for. Meanwhile, my brother demands dinner while shouting at teenagers online. My siblings and I have been discussing solutions for months. At the beginning of the month, we decided Dad would go to a care center. Mom plans to sell the house and move to a community nearby. And we hope my brother will find a place with an internet connection. My parents have always protected him, but the stroke finally opened their eyes to the reality of the situation. It's painful to admit, but we're all tired of him. None of us care what happens to him anymore. And it's striking to say that out loud. Yesterday, I was there when he got the news. Mom will be living with my sister until the house sells, and Dad is going to the care center next week. The eviction process has already begun. His reaction was something to behold. He stomped his feet and screamed that it wasn't fair. He threatened to sue us and even yelled at an elderly man, demanding to know how we would help him find a place to live. He still doesn't grasp the reality he's facing. Now he's not speaking to our parents, locked away in his room, only coming out to grab food from the pantry. My brother is staying there to keep an eye on him and update us on his tantrums. I'm looking forward to the next month. It feels like the best reality show I've seen in a long time. As a quick update, he hasn't gotten violent, thankfully, but he's made life difficult for everyone. He claims to have found a place to live and says he'll be out by the end of the month.
I subconsciously lost my Australian accent by doing too many impersonations when I was a kid and a teen. I was born in Australia, just like my parents. My dad has a voice that reminds everyone of Steve Irwin. Growing up in rural Australia, I was surrounded by the typical accents of my community. But I became obsessed with American TV. It was all I watched, and eventually, I started mimicking the accents for fun. At primary school, my impersonations were a hit. Everyone loved it, and I got a lot of attention. I could do Texas accents, Boston accents, California Valley Girl accents, and even New Yorker accents. In the early 2000s, in rural Australia, this was a big deal. I entertained my classmates by switching up my voice. When I reached high school, I got involved in musicals. My school viewed my accents as a gift, which led to me landing lead roles in productions. Now, at 26, people constantly ask me, why do you talk like that? I've developed a full-blown Northern American accent, mixed with random Southern and Aussie twangs. It feels like a curse. Recently I started a new job, and my colleagues debated whether I was from Canada or America. I've never even set foot in either country. They joked about placing bets, and didn't believe me when I insisted I'm a full Aussie. Even my parents pointed out. I often notice people laughing when I switch between 3 accents in a single sentence without realizing it. I truly don't notice. Certain words come out sounding very Californian, while others slip into a Southern drawl. Looking back at old videotapes from when I was 5, I sounded just like my parents, typical bogan Aussie. Now, I'm just a strange fusion of accents. It feels like a curse, though maybe a funny one. It's always a conversation starter, which has its perks. I was diagnosed with autism at 12, and my therapist thinks my accent changes might be connected to that. I practiced American accents so much as a child that it altered my real accent as an adult. Now, I have this blend of Texan, Californian, and Aussie that feels so far from who I used to be.
I'm secretly relieved my sister is dead. I'm a middle-aged man, and my sister passed away a few years ago due to alcoholism. She was cherished by our family, admired for her intelligence and kindness. She seemed to be a good mother, and I genuinely mourn for her children. Yet I can't shake the relief I feel about her death. When I was a child, she violated my trust in a way that still haunts me. She took my innocence, claiming it was practice for the boys at school. I can't recall every detail, because I've buried those memories. But I remember her holding me down, silencing my cries. She used that moment to manipulate me for years, forcing me into actions that siblings should never share. She taunted me with hurtful words, threatening to twist the truth if I ever dared to speak out. Eventually, I found the courage to confront her. I told her it had to stop. And when she threatened me again, I challenged her to tell anyone. I felt I had nothing left to lose. To my surprise, she backed down, never mentioning it again. In my youth, I often contemplated ending my own pain. Thankfully, I sought help and have moved beyond those dark thoughts. Yet even as an adult, she continued to exert control over me, monitoring my every move and gaslighting me about our shared trauma. She was always the favorite, the golden child. After her death, I finally began to heal. But the scars remain, a part of my innocence lost forever. I can't share my truth with my family. They still see her as the perfect sister. What if they don't believe me? What if they say, why bring this up now when she can't defend herself? The only reason I feel safe sharing this now is because she's no longer here to hurt me. I carry her secret with me, bound to remember her as the person they believe she was, rather than the person she truly was.
I was going to tell him it was me who did it, but now I don't think I can. My boyfriend had a rough day at work. He got in trouble over something minor, and his boss blew it way out of proportion. The way his boss treated him was mean and insulting, especially for such a simple mistake. When he called me later, I could hear the discouragement in his voice. He was embarrassed and said he didn't even want the promotion they were training him for anymore. It broke my heart because he has worked so hard for that company, often doing the job of 2 or 3 people by himself.
Hearing him like this made me sad. He loves his work, but that day they really tore him down.
I have a few aliases I've built over the years, and in a moment of impulse, I decided to use one to leave a 5-star review on his company's page. I wrote that it was my first time at the location and how impressed I was with the work. I mentioned how talented and reliable he is, and how great the turnaround time was. To keep it from sounding like me, I even wrote it in French. I figured they could translate it easily. I wanted his bosses to see how valuable he truly is. Hours later, he texted me a screenshot of the review, saying, "Look, babe." That night, he was almost in tears, saying how good it felt to be appreciated. It gave him hope and perseverance. In that moment, I realized it meant more to him than it ever would to his bosses. Maybe one day I'll tell him the truth, but for now, I don't think I can.